Hello, this is Christina Barn. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barn. Today, we are going to be talking about this Tucker Carlson interview that Andrew Tate had with, well, I guess it's an interview Tucker Carlson had with Andrew Tate, but who, has been this big phenomenon and he's been arrested. And so he's like, oh, the Matrix is coming at me and all this stuff. And he said some things to Tucker to really kind of downplay his actions and stuff. So there's someone who cut some clips together from different interviews that Andrew had. And so there's questions on the right, like what is this red pill movement kind of going toward, if it's just to say some things that are like anti like feminist or something, and it pushes people who are pretty immoral the population, just because you say some true things here and there doesn't mean that we should be uplifting or embracing particular people. So I want to talk about that today. Also, the Guardian wrote a pretty remarkable article on Clarence Thomas and trying to make it seem like he's doing some really shady stuff because some aides got paid some money by some other folks at an event. They're like, it says that on the Venmo it's for a Christmas party, but we don't know what it's for. And it's like, is it reimbursement for the Christmas party? So man, they're reaching for any sort of thing to go after Clarence Thomas, and it's at some point it's like, bro, just stop. Just, you're making yourself look silly. So we'll talk about that. And also in a good bit of news, trans cyclists, I guess cannot compete with women, but NBC News, which they put this in their article, but which I guess they're quoting the organization, but it said female transgender athletes who transitioned after male puberty will no longer be able to compete in women's cycling races. There, if you couldn't follow that, they're saying that men can't compete with the women or males can't compete with the women. There are no female trans women. I don't know what the heck kind of headline or ideology this is, but we'll talk about that. Even though the headline is preposterous, it is I guess a step in a positive direction. So before we jump into these topics of the day, please go to blackteennews.com, check out different content on the website, different articles, different videos, etc. Please make sure that you guys are dropping in your email addresses and stuff so you guys can get different emails. I'm about to send one out as soon as I get off the air. So go ahead and go to the website, make sure you're dropping on signing up for different emails, and make sure you're following me across my different social media platforms, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, you can do super chats. If you're watching on Facebook, you guys can send stars. Best way to support is to go to the website, blackteennews.com, and to donate there. If you would like to support across the stream, run my website, all that good stuff. So if you can support in that kind of way, God bless you. Really do appreciate it. There's also like different equipment upgrades and needs and stuff. I'm very glad to have this new baby, this microphone, but there's some stuff I need for like doing on the scene kind of things, and other stuff like in studio too, but some like on the scene interviews at places, and men on the street kind of stuff. So there's some things I'm eyeballing that I'd like to get. So if you can help in that kind of way, I very, very much appreciate everything that you guys have done thus far to help grow the dream. And I'm very appreciative of people who send kind words and appreciate, the different commentary that we have on particular topics. So thank you guys for watching, for commenting, for adding other people, telling other people to watch. It really, really is nice and a blessing. So you guys can also support by going to the website and checking out different merchandise that's available. Like the My Money My Business, really like that one shirt. We also got the Constitution is a Glorious Document, Liberty Document from Frederick Douglass there. And we got the You Are Not That Special and the special little cute mugs. You can go trigger someone in your life today, humble them. Go humble them today. And also I do write. I have several books that I have written. I guess it's more than several, but 17 that I have published. I've written over 30. So if you're interested, you guys can just search my name on Amazon, Christina L. Barr. I know some of you follow me on Amazon. Thank you very much. But if you go to the website and hit the merchandise page, there's a banner at the top that'll take you to my book website, or you guys can just go to my book website, which is ninjadustpublishing.com. So I write mostly fiction, but I write also fiction, nonfiction. Um, so that includes a faith book that I have, and also my abortion book as well. So if you guys can go ahead and check out some of my stuff, help build the parallel economy here. I'm seeing some of my friends who are creatives, um, like on different social media platforms, talk about the writer strike, and I sympathize with some of their demands and things that they're concerned about, especially with the AI. But man, some of the stuff that they've put out for the past couple years, and maybe more than maybe the past couple of years, decade or so, but particularly last couple of years, have just been so driven by agenda. You can feel their animosity toward the customers that have made their companies famous, particularly like people who work at Disney, for example. They just I the reason why what the one of the main reasons why I'm just like, you know what, I'm done with like Disney. I haven't really seen um uh any the last Marvel thing I saw was WandaVision. I haven't seen any Star Wars thing since the last thing I saw I guess was Solo. And I know you're like, "Oh my gosh, but Mandalorian was so good," and other, or someone maybe see the first season was so good. I've heard a lot. I still like to kind of watch content about content, but I haven't really watched the content. But because I just feel that they hate my guts. I feel that, and when you hear like the writers of She-Hulk and other stuff talk about like, oh, we knew the trolls would say this. It's like you wouldn't have. I mean, you're always going to have some trolls, but the reason why you particularly have trolls is because um you don't care about your customer, and when you do something like you that's disrespectful to the source material, because people have invested a lot of time and money and emotions into these products, just beyond the emotions, people are emotionally invested because they have invested their time and their money, which they have gotten through labor and doing other things, into these particular products. So when you say, "Oh, it's no big deal if we change this, or we alter this, or we just totally smash your the lore or whatever," in the grand scheme of things, is it a big deal? I guess not, but to pretend that people should just kind of get over it as you remake all these things so you can get your name out there and go on to the next project. People don't appreciate it. And then they say something and you call them toxic, and now there are some people who are just kind of awful out there on the internet. It's the internet. But some people, every little complaint, they're like, "Oh, because you're sexist, because you're racist, because you're," it's like, what if those people aren't those things and your writing is just awful? So there's quite a few friends who are creatives who are just kind of like, y'all don't care about people in everyday life. You guys didn't care about people during the pandemic, and you guys are gatekeepers, and you guys are awful with content as of late. And they're like, we would rather just watch people who make content than actual content. So the writer strike and stuff is in the talent strike is definitely interesting, but I cannot say that I'm like, "Oh, that's awful. I hope they come back soon." I don't have those kind of feelings. I really don't. But in the meantime, there are other people out there who create and build and aren't part of the super woke world. And I'm one of them. So check out, people who write things and support them. So before moving on, I do want to thank a super chat here. Thank you very much, KT. Very much appreciate that. God bless you. So yeah, let's let's move on. So I do have something funny that I want to share. You know how there's like all these like eco terrorists out and about and around, and they the climate activists, and they throw paint at paintings or whatever, and they glue themselves to counters. One of the actors from the show Succession, which he's pretty much a lib and stuff in the show Succession. I can't think of his name, but he was like in Babe the Pig, and older man. And he glued himself, or I don't know if he glued himself, but he was among like activists like doing stuff at Starbucks. But anyway, someone this is going around, this is viral, of some German folks who had glued their hands down in the road, and consequences.
Bindet mal mit seinem Finger und das macht er mit Absicht, um aufmerksam.
Ich simuliere überhaupt keine Scheiße.
Gucken Sie mal Ihren Kollegen. Ja, aber das kann schon passieren. Ihr blutet zum Beispiel auch. Also da ist halt spannend.
Yeah, if you glue yourself to the road, it's gonna hurt. If you glue yourself to the road, it's just gonna kind of hurt. So some people are like, just leave them there. It'll be inconvenient for a little while, but like their lesson. If they have to, I don't know, sleep out there, pee in their pants and other stuff, it's so ridiculous. Like there are better ways to, first of all, you want to make sure you're protesting something that even makes sense at all, but to inconvenience people like that and just make yourself seem like such a nuisance, I don't think that's a good way to go, unless you can really bring a halt to stuff like the Canada truckers situation. That was a pretty effective awareness that they did, and they were fighting for something that was noble, and unfortunately their government is kind of tyrannical. I know I got some Canadians that pop in and watch, but and perhaps because I talked about the trucker stuff when it happened, but their COVID policies was just like insane. And that also obviously the pandemic had big repercussions, but in Michigan, like would have a lot of people who would bust down to go shop at places like Target, or they would go to the mall and buy a lot of different products and things. So the fact that they don't have that sort of income coming in, or those clients coming in, was just very interesting. So thank you very much. I just thank you, random note girl. You guys can't see if you're like, well, she seems a little distracted. Someone was crawling to me through the what you can see. So thank you very much for the $25 donation on the website. I very much appreciate that. God bless you guys. So anyway, when you didn't have that income coming in from Canadians and stuff, the mall was already like, started not doing well, but then those people couldn't come down, and then you couldn't go up to Canada unless you were vaccinated and stuff. And my dad, he would go to, actually he's taking a trip today, he should be gone, but he's going to go minister on a reserve. And so we're like before we're like, Dad, you can't go up there unless you get all the jabs and stuff. He's like, oh yes, I can. I'm like, no, you can't. Like, they're gonna make you do it. You can't do it. So it just really shut off so much of the economy in the world around us. And for what? For what? Because you could still catch it, you could still spread it. And if you said that on YouTube like 2 years ago, would I'd probably have a strike? I mean, and it was true the whole time. And you know what? That information came out pretty early, by the way, because I remember reading it. I don't know if it was a Washington Post article, a New York Times article, and people were like still kind of skeptic, but it started kind of rolling out. And they're like, well, you could still possibly catch it and spread it even if you're vaccinated. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. And okay, I'm like, okay, if you can get it, the jab, and you can still spread it, where is this moral outrage and superiority coming from? That complex of I'm vaxxed and you're not, and you're killing people. Like, where is that? Because if you can still spread it, I'm like, you got it for you. You're not getting it for me. Because that was a whole like huge moral superiority complex coming from, because they felt like they were saving you, and you should have also wanted to save them, but that was never true. So I feel like that information came out really, really early, and people didn't start really embracing it, acknowledging it, until like maybe 2 years later. So I had a conversation at dinner the other day about the different attitudes that we had, and people were like, oh, just forgive now. And it's like, we can forgive, but I don't know if we can really forget. But anyway, let's move on to this Andrew Tate situation. So Andrew Tate has been a big name for a minute, but it seemed like I hadn't heard of Andrew Tate until I guess, well, Kevin Samuels, that just kind of exploded, and then he passed away. And then to me, it kind of seemed like Andrew Tate filled this void of like saying things, harsh things to women, and I guess to men sometimes, but it's like, here's a reality check for the world. And he a lot of people latched on, and it's not because he is saying some things that are true, but the problem with my issue with like Andrew Tate and like Pearl and other folks who are so red pilled and whatnot is that I don't think we should just look at the world and just point out things that we observe and be like, this is a true thing. I think we have to do more than just talk about things that are true. I think we need to pursue kind of a greater sort of truth, but I think we need to talk about things that are not just happening, but behaviors that we ought to do as well. So I've gone through particular videos with Pearl, for example, where she's talked about women who go in the church and kind of having this like, I don't get this mentality of guys getting with these girls who are like born again virgins. I kind of think that's a dumb term, but women who were like sleeping around and then rededicate their lives to God, and they're like, well, I'm going to be celibate now. And she's like, oh, so you can go out in the world and just kind of be used up, and then expect to get a good guy, and it's like, well, that shouldn't be the goal in life or the expectation, but redemption and turning your life around and making positive steps is a good thing that people should applaud. So I'll have to repost this whole video, that whole section of my video, because I did talk about it live on the show, going through a video of hers where she like just went through a rant about how she doesn't understand religion. I'm like, no, you don't, babe. You really don't, especially the whole redemption arc thing. So I don't think we just talk about things that are happening and we acknowledge, yes, men are like this and men don't like a high body count. That's true with women and other stuff. And, they want a housewife, and you can say all those things, but what about things that we ought to also talk about? Because a lot of these like super, macho guys who are becoming, so viral, on the internet, they'll talk about like, oh, we need to take care of a woman, we need to do this, we need to do that, and the way, we expect her not to have a high body count, cook, and do all these sorts of things, and and you be a man and you step up for her, but I'm like, I don't think you step up for women by you still being promiscuous and you not being faithful, and like Kevin Samuels would talk about high value men, and these girls who want these high value men making all this money, and etc. And he just kind of made it a reality. Like, okay, those men are going to cheat on you. It's like, if you define a high value man as someone who makes a lot of money, I get that. But a high value man, in my opinion, would not just have control of his finances, he would have control of his body, so I again, we could talk about how the world is, but what about how the world ought to be, what it should strive for? The issue with the lot of the feminist movement isn't that they want to be treated better and more opportunities, and all those things are good, right? But the sexual revolution stuff that happened along with it, instead of demanding that men be better, they just kind of are like, well, we want to act like these bad men too. And it's just empowered these bad men to be able to get more action. And when you get older, they don't want a woman like you. They want a woman who maybe was more traditional and didn't play into the sexual revolution. And you'll say that's not fair. But it is what it is. So instead of you demanding those collectively, all these women be like, well, I'm not going to be available for you to use me in that sort of way. So you be accountable for your own darn actions, and you be a better person. So if you want these traditional good kind of girls, you're not going to use me along the way until you get to that girl. You're gonna be a grown man and act accountable now. And we're not going to wait for you to get in your 30s or 40s and have a light bulb moment. You be a good man now. Like, they should have held men accountable instead of trying, they get to be players and women wanted to be players, as well. They should have said, no, you be a traditional man. you be a traditional man that's worthy of that girl that you want. That's what we should have done, as opposed to like free love. Go out there, you're on the pill, the pill fails, you go have yourself an abortion, you you live your life, and when you're really ready to settle down, when you're in 35 or something, you find you a man and you start your family then. And a lot of people are finding it that doesn't work out. A lot of people are finding that doesn't work out. So again, you can talk about how things are, but we need to talk about how things ought to be. And I think that's sometimes people can't grasp that. I think different conversations that I'll have or other folks will have, like there was a video that people were so angry at live action for posting on TikTok, and they were talking about birth control. Now, Lila Rose, who runs live action, is Catholic, and there's plenty of Catholics who like birth control, let me tell you. But that's like an overall thing they're not supposed to like really be into. And so I don't know that everybody who's on that account, runs that account, is Catholic or whatever. But the one of the videos that they posted, one girl was talking about how they thought they're talking about how it's like available over the counter now. And how birth control will eventually like be like the new cigarette, where they're like, oh, it's fine, and you look back and it's like, oh gosh, there's a lot of issues and stuff. And so and she thought the availability of it being just so readily available encourages people to have sex more, and was concerned about young women and stuff sleeping around more and stuff. So people were so angry, and there are people who were like, I'm pro-life, but this is such a bad take. And the people in the comments automatically jump to like, oh, they want to ban birth control, they want to ban birth control, they want to ban birth control. And I'm like, they didn't say anything about a policy thing, other than they probably don't like the policy of it being like over the counter. They think that you should probably talk to your doctor, and your doctor prescribes something that's, that they look at the side effects and whatever is good for your body, and make a good estimation of what you need from that kind of way. But they're not saying get rid of birth control. That's like a loser issue. Now, people might say that you're not entitled to have it, like, I don't know, provided for you for free or other stuff like that. But there's no big movement or something to have it like outlawed or anything like that, especially not even in the pro-life circles. It's just not a thing. Now, the people might have their opinions about it and preach what you ought to do, but there's a difference between when you're talking about what you ought to do versus like someone actually trying to ban something. Like if I talk about abortion and people are like, oh, you want people to be abstinent? I think you ought to be abstinent if you're unmarried. I do. And you could be like, oh my gosh, she said that word, that thing that people can't do, as she does it, So it's so wild to me. People are like, it's literally impossible. I'm like, okay. We can talk about what you ought to, but I can't control you. So you have to, you make whatever choices that you want to do. And you're accountable for the choices that you make. So if you sleep around and you get pregnant, my thing is just don't kill the baby. But we can talk about what you ought to do that will make, that will keep you out of those situations. But if you decide that what I say is so darn impossible, then 9 months of having a baby, it is what it is. So we could talk about policy. My policy is don't kill babies. And we can talk about what you ought to do to not put yourself in that position. But if you put yourself in that position, my policy is still the same. But we can still talk about what you ought to do. And it's still not the same as, I'm not trying to legislate you not sleeping around. So people, obviously what you ought to do is talking about moral things, and people don't like being judged. People don't like being told what to do at all sometimes. And you just can't live life like that. People are always going to have opinions on what you should or shouldn't do. And we should have debates about what's good for our communities, our societies, our families, and so on. And you can choose to take that advice, and you can choose to not take that advice. So, again, back to the Tate situation, he might say some things that are observably true as of now. But a lot of like his bravado is, I think, to cover up a lot of his kind of proclivities. And so, a lot of people were saying, like, watch this interview he had with Tucker Carlson to spread awareness and stuff, which Tucker just kind of let him talk and didn't push back and stuff so much. So I don't know what that was really about, but some people clipped some stuff together of some commentary that Tate has had in the past, and that don't make him look great, for sure. So there's lots of conversations going on this weekend about Tate and his influence on young men, and conservatives are asking, why are people, highlighting this guy? Like Jordan Peterson was like, he doesn't know everything going on with the Romanian authorities. He's like, but I don't think the pimpy stuff is obviously good. And it's not. And he himself, in his own words, is a pimp. So we're going to watch a bit of this video, though.
That's a really good question. I'm charged with being the head of an organized criminal group, which is in charge of recruiting girls to make TikTok videos.
They face charges which include human trafficking, rape, and forming a criminal gang to sexually exploit women.
OnlyFans is the best hustle in the world.
Are they accusing you of using violence or?
No. They're accusing me of using the lover boy method, coercing them by being nice. I don't mention webcam until after I've had sex with the girl. If you're on dates and you're trying to mention it and shit, it just doesn't work. It puts them off. I'd never do that. That's disgusting. I'm not a whore. It's just not gonna work. You continue as normal, no mention of webcam. You fuck the girl. After you fuck the girl, you do the PhD test. So yeah, on CobraTate.com, I have my PhD program, and that is, PhD is a pimp and hose degree that I'm,
Clever.
And
Clever.
That teaches basically how I got girls, how I met girls, how I got girls to like me, how I got girls to fall in love with me to work on webcam for me. Oh, and you're always working. Why don't you work for me so we spend more time together? Work for you doing what? So you'll have a webcam business. Oh, I don't want to do that. So, okay, I know you don't want to do that, but listen, come, let's have a meeting. Let's just talk about it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Fine. But let me explain it to you properly. In fact, I'll bring one of the girls who works for me. Your bottom bitch is the one who does the selling. You don't do the selling. The girl has to hear it from a girl. And this is where your bottom bitch has to be trained. That's why I said it's so important to have a good first girl. Because that's what I did. That was my MO, was find girls, make them love me, and make them work for me. This girl's like, okay, well, I'll try it. Put both girls on camera together the first day, so the new girl can sit there and just sit with the other girl and get drunk. Give them a bottle of vodka.
First night that I worked for him, Andrew bought me like 5 bottles of wine. So I got completely drunk because I'd never done webcam work. So I was very, very nervous.
And that's how I got rich. So that teaches everything I know from start to finish about not only getting girls, not only obtaining them, but retaining them. Because that's a completely different game as well.
And over time, I just built up this big little empire of webcam girls. At one point, I had 4 locations, 75 girls working for me. I'd take around half of the money, around 50%.
You take 50%.
Around 50%.
They thought they were on 50%. And I said that the disparity is because of taxes.
He would just pay me a flat fee of £15 an hour.
We got to the point where we had these guys falling in love with my models, serious, big time in love, right? Sending crazy money. And they were convinced they were going to meet the chick. This is almost where I kind of felt bad. Because they're like, can we meet? I've sent you $200,000.
But when you look at the money that I was actually bringing in, it just doesn't even scratch the surface.
I had these guys selling their houses, life savings, loans, all of it to me. Give me it all.
I was all about trying to get paid. Like I used sex as a tool to make women love me so they'd obey me and live in my house to make me money. That's what I wanted. So I was a pimp in that sense.
Were there any other instances where there was physical abuse?
I saw him smack girls with a belt.
Some ideas? You want my ideas? That's right, lock the door, you knew I was going to beat the out of you. If you behaved, I wouldn't have to hit you, would I? You don't. Get out. You can't stay in there forever.
Once again, this is an IQ test, right? Because any guy who's bad with women would look at it and go, takes a woman beater. I say it. Look at the camera. This is what happens, you don't listen. Look at the camera. Why are you getting hit? Why are you getting beaten? You don't listen. You. Do as I say. Any man who's actually a G, who's been around a little bit, would look at the video and go, man, she wants that. The media machine, they'd call up ex-girlfriends and say, if you have anything bad to say about Andrew, we can pay you $50,000 for the story. And they tried very hard. They didn't find any evidence of anything.
And I had gone to the shower, I came back and I noticed he was, like, I saw him raping her. And,
People say, why did you in Romania? And I explain my 5 reasons. One of them is the Me Too era. They go, oh, well, you're a rapist. I say, no, I'm not a fucking rapist. But I like the idea of being able to just say, to do what I want. I like being free. And of course, they don't go out. They're not allowed out. You stay in the house.
Because I'm not particularly, what would you say, impressed by what he's done on the sex business front. It seems to me a bit on the pimpy side, let's say.
I get called a pimp a lot, but and the reason I use the term is because I don't see it as a negative term. I see it as positively inspirational and motivating person.
She has to respect you and love you and want to work with you. And that's done through positively inspirational and motivating person. I'm gonna send you a book. It's a guy called Pimpin' Ken, who was a street pimp in the 90s, and he wrote a book, 50 Laws of the Game. And one of the laws of the game is a hoe without instruction is headed for destruction. They're accusing me of using the lover boy method, coercing them by being nice.
Let me read you then what you have said about what you have done.
Sure.
You have said, my job was to meet a girl, go on a few dates, sleep with her, get her to fall in love with me to the point where she'd do anything I say, and then get her on webcam so we could become rich together. I don't think that's what I personally said. I think that's exactly what you said on your website. No, I've never said that. So yeah, on contradict.com I have my PhD program.
I think the belief is that you were charged with human trafficking.
Yeah, that's human trafficking, because what you do is you force a girl to work against her will for financial gain. That's human trafficking. And their justification for this is that girls do TikTok. Some girls I know who they found who say they're not victims have TikTok accounts. PhD is a pimp and hose degree that I'm.
Clever.
So I think in the Tucker interview, and excuse me if I'm wrong, but I don't even think he mentioned like any site beyond TikTok, but it was like didn't mention OnlyFans and other stuff like that. But um yeah, that video, from my understanding, is from Milk Bar TV. I mean, had the banner at the top, but they posted on Twitter, and so there's people on the right, like Liz Wheeler and other folks who are like, please watch this, please share this. And Lila Rose, I'm gonna go ahead and share what she said. And then there's commentary from Pearl as well. Who is fine with herself being referred to as a female Andrew Tate, but Andrew Tate is not your friend. Tate's recent moralizing on Twitter is because he's getting disciplined by Romanian authorities for doing evil things, and he's trying to gaslight his followers into thinking he is a victim of secret globalist powers. If anything, Red Pill should thank the Romanians for Tate's new and improved tone. And then Pearl retweeted, said, I hate to break it to you, but the chicks falling in love with a dude and doing cam work isn't human trafficking. Females have changed and expanded these definitions to incriminate powerful men. If this is a crime, then I want to see all the women that do foodie calls prosecuted too. And okay, Pearl. And Lila replied back, for those purposes of the is Andrew Tate a good role model for men? Question. It doesn't matter whether those people involved in his porn scheme consented or not. His actions are that of a wealth-obsessed pornographer, not a role model. Any woman or man promoting or selling porn is not a good role model or leader for others. Do you agree? As for whether he tricked unwilling girls into it, have you listened to his own words? Was he lying when he said he did that, or was he lying now that he claims he didn't? So I guess he did say in the Tucker interview that he was use the lover boy method, that he would, be nice to them and then they would do stuff. But in his own words in the past, there's definitely a way that he's been candid about what he did versus like the reserved sort of nature where he left obvious details out in Tucker's interview for obvious reasons. Now, I don't know what will end up happening with this case or not, but this conversation is mostly about like whether he's a role model. Now, I have pretty, I guess, think cynical views on role models. I don't think people should really have role models. I think if you look towards certain people, that you should look at good attributes about them, question why they've accomplished those particular things, and want to know how to accomplish the same, and achieve that, whether it's financial success or they have certain disciplines in their lives, they live by a certain moral code, and it's fine to want to pattern yourselves after particular attributes. But if you're holding someone up on a pedestal, excuse me, and you expect them to not fall or anything like that, or to not let you down, I think eventually you might be in for some kind of heartbreak. And like, I appreciate people who like my stuff and subscribe and donate and are motivated and inspired, and I don't plan to let anyone down. I'm not saying I'm a bad bet or anything like that. I think there's a lot of good people that you can place confidence in, but one thing you have to keep in perspective is that we're all human. We all fall short, of perfection. So I just encourage people to keep that sort of healthy sort of distance between your heart and a celebrity or somebody that you follow offline or something, because there's going to be somebody that you put a lot of yourself into and hopes and dreams and whatever, and they do something and you're like, oh man, they messed up, and that can really set you back. Even like people in the church, like there's a lot of people that you can look up to that do really good things, but you got to follow them as they follow Christ. So as long as they're oriented toward a certain good goal, that's the same kind of moral pathway that you follow. But if they fall off track or something, don't let it like rock you to the point of no return. So I'm you know, I discourage any sort of like celebrity worship. And I think people wouldn't want to put it that way because it sounds a little creepy, but there's a lot of people who like obsess over particular people and their lives and what they do and what they say and how they live their life and what they think about this and what they think about that. And you should analyze what people say, break it down, and like, oh, that's a good thing. And then they say something bad, like, oh, that's a bad thing, or I don't agree with this, I don't agree with that. People are extraordinarily complex. But Andrew Tate, of course, he's not a role model. Of course he's not. Of course he's not. Again, he can say something that's true. Like his whole thing, as far as debating on when he go on different like Twitch streams, and that's how he gained a lot of really big popularity too. He would go on different Twitch streams and debate with different folks, and he would just kind of cream a lot of people. And he said he would say things that are true, but he would say them in an offensive way. So people would be like, oh no, that's not true, or whatever. And he just break it down more. And then they just look like a moron, and their audience be like, yo, yeah, no, he has a point. He has a point. So that was his strategy. I think he's a very charismatic person for sure. He's not a dummy. He's a very smart guy. But again, just because people say things that are true doesn't mean that we shouldn't be just looking at the world and observable, like we see this is how it is here, but miss how the world ought to be inspiring toward a better, toward, tomorrow, or morality or something. Like, the USA, for example, we're founded on this idea that all men are created equal. But we came together, we had slaves, right? They had to broker particular deals, or all the colonies wouldn't have come together. But there was this framework within what they came together to break it down. That's why, like Frederick Douglass, I have this shirt where he says the Constitution is a glorious liberty document. And that's from his "What to the Slave is the 4th of July" speech. And so he didn't believe that people who pushed that the Constitution is a pro-slavery document were correct. He didn't believe that, and he said we needed to push back against that talking point. If you haven't read that speech, you really should, because it can speak to so many people and their misconceptions today about different things. But he believed that it always promoted like liberty, and that's why he said it was a glorious liberty document. And so what we needed to do, yes, there are people who didn't live up to the hype, that didn't live up to the promise, but we needed to get people to get to that point. And I think we still need to push people to get to that point, because I don't think that we are all treated like we are all created equal in particular circumstances. You guys know I talk about abortion a lot, but that's a particular example where you have to be human plus something else, or you can be human, but if you aren't a perfect human, or if you come into this world a particular kind of way, they're like, oh well, these people deserve the right to life, or the right to be the right to be protected from violence, but these certain people don't have this the right to be protected from violence. So we're always striving toward a more perfect union. We are not a perfect union, but it's that striving toward that. And it's like that with religion too. People don't confess like, Lord, you're my savior, and then they're just like, we say that you're a new creature, and yeah, we believe that, but DNA and all that is the same. But like we believe that, but you have to still work toward perfection, and you do that by crucifying some of your like sinful impulses and stuff, and striving toward the ethics and stuff of Christ and what he taught, what he preached. And so that takes work every day. My brother likes to say, I'm not perfect, but I'm made perfect in my pursuit of him. So that's where we kind of need to be going. So Andrew Tate likes having this perverse nature to do these things that I think most people would view from the outside as immoral, but it gets him money, gets him fame, it gets him all these things. He said, you know, he doesn't want to be a Christian because he thinks they're too soft. And I do think Christians are too soft, but and don't stand up for their own principles, I think, enough. But like sometimes they're embarrassed or whatever about what they actually believe, and they're even too shy to talk to their neighbor and their friend. And it's like, bro, if you believe you have eternal life, then why are you like quiet? But his thing is like, they're too much, like people just are disrespecting you. And that's why he would rather, you know, be a Muslim than a Christian, because he like they don't take all that garbage that, you know, Christians will like take in the face. But it's like, so it's about your ego, not not actually about crucifying yourself. So he's very much a him kind of guy. And I don't doubt that there are people who've been hurt along the way. I don't appreciate any of this, you know, pornography and stuff. Like, there's been a lot of conversations about Sound of Freedom and what's going on with sex trafficking, and that really eerie, disturbing revelation of there's a lot of people that are into some heinous things that a lot of people don't want to think about. But what's a lot of things that are legal help to facilitate that, those dark desires, and it just kind of gets worse. Or people will get addicted to these things very young, and they have to get things that are progressively worse and worse and worse. So I don't like OnlyFans and all this kind of different stuff anyway. So yeah, I think anyone who kind of promotes those things are gross. So, and you can say I'm too stuffy or whatnot. I don't care. It's not gonna hurt my feelings. I've been called worse. So if you're on the right, I just encourage you to just because someone is popular and someone is trending and someone says a thing that's true, you can agree with a thing. But you don't have to become like a ride or die with that person because they say some true things. Now, people, if the charges, you know, are ludicrous or something like that, and he's being wrongly persecuted, that's not a good thing. But he himself, he does shady, grotesque things, guys. Again, you can look. Just because he says some things that are observable about the true world doesn't mean that he speaks to some kind of greater truth. There's what is going on in the world, and there's what you ought to do. And I think a lot of these people that get the clicks and the buzz and the, you know, outrage bait click farm folks, they'll say some things that maybe are true, but they don't talk a lot about how the world ought to be. And I don't think they're really contributing to that more perfect union, or contributing toward that more perfect sort of community and other things like that, because the moral center isn't there. And they may say some things that logically kind of make some sense sometimes, but that like ethical center isn't really grounded. And when it comes to like Tate, and I've gone through examples like with Pearl, like the episode when she talked about religion. And I'll have to just clip that section and post it, because I don't think I did that. But just be careful with some of these folks, guys. I think being a conservative is not just about limited government, you know, or a smaller government or whatever. It's about preserving particular values as well. And at least I think it is. And I think most people would think it is, who aren't just kind of jumping on to troll, outrage, clickbait culture. I think it's a lot deeper than that. Anyway, let's move on. World Cycling Governing Body bans transgender athletes from women's events. Man, there's this tweet from NBC, and I did share it on my YouTube. I mean, on my Facebook. So some of you probably already seen this. But and again, this tweet is from the actual, like, I think, statement. So it's still pretty remarkable that NBC put this out there. But female transgender athletes who transitioned after male puberty will no longer be able to compete in women's cycling races, the World Cycling Governing Body says. So if you're like confused at all, because it says female transgender athletes who transitioned after male puberty, and you're probably like, how does a female experience a male puberty? They don't. Spoiler alert. I should say spoiler alert and then spoil it for you, but yeah, I did it backwards. But females don't have male puberty. Females and males, those are not, I don't think sex and gender are separate. I think the point of people trying to separate sex and gender isn't to actually separate them, it's to undermine sex. So I think that's how you eventually get to dumb headlines like this, where they're using female and male that are supposed to be about sex, and they say this garbage. And our sports aren't separated by identity. They're separated because of sex, because there's a clear difference between the sexes. So was it Serena who said, Serena Williams who said, or maybe it was Venus, is one of the sisters who said that tennis between a man and a woman are totally different. They think of it as a totally different sport because men are just so physically different than the females. So that's why men and women are separated, not on the basis of, well, I feel like a woman. I like to wear high heels and pink dresses and or whatever you all think goes into being a woman and your identity and whatever affirms that. That has nothing to do with the actual physical capabilities of males and females. So even allowing someone like Leah Thomas, or William Thomas rather, to participate and swim with different athletes, or these athletes have them cycling, or trans women are skateboarding and beating, all these different competitors. It's everywhere. You see this gender ideology eking into women's competitions, but it's not an identity thing, it's a sex thing. So the idea that we have this debate at all is pretty telling. It tells me that the point, again, of separating sex and gender isn't because you actually think they're separate at all. It's because you want to undermine sex. Because we have sex segregated spaces. We don't have men's feeling spaces and women's feeling spaces. We have men's bathrooms and women's bathrooms. They're sometimes, there's just the stalls or whatever, but usually they have a urinal, like, because we do things differently, right? Men and women might, go in the bathroom. Well, women will spend a little bit more time in there and, powder our nose and have gab time or whatever. I'm not all women, are like, come to the bathroom with me. I was never that kind of girl, but women and men are a bit different. But the functionality of what we do in the bathroom is a bit different. We have different locker rooms because we have different equipment, right? All these places are sex segregated. Our prisons are sex segregated. We don't have men and the women integrated because one, it wouldn't be quite safe because and prison's not safe for anyone, by the way. There's a reason why people say don't drop the soap and other stuff. So if you're a man in a men's prison, you know, and you're a smaller man and you did some dirty things, especially to some kids or something, well, if you're not killed, you may have a rough time on your hands for as long as they allow you to live. So prison's not safe for anyone, but if you have women in men's population and stuff, you know, they're not as strong, and the men are, you know, maybe want to do something, maybe they want to do something consensual, and then you have women who are pregnant, and then what do you do with the baby? They're in the prison for 9 months, you know. The baby's not going to be an inmate, you know, after they come out, so it just leads to more complications. And that's something that has happened with trans women going to women's prisons, is women, you know, having relations with those men and resulting in pregnancy. So there's all kinds of complication when you intermingle sexes in particular locations. So they're segregated by sex. So this idea that you can just identify and like, oh, I'm going to go in the woman's spa, fully, you know, anatomy attached, so you can go in the women's naked area. That's there's at least 3 different spas that we've covered on the show where trans women have come in and tried to just totally invade these women's spaces. And it's like, bro, you can think all you want and still go hang out with the guys. And if they haze you, or you know, people shouldn't do violent stuff, but I mean, like, I don't know, verbally say stuff or whatever, that's not necessarily, that's not a good thing. But why do you think it's a good thing to come in and make women feel so utterly uncomfortable with you being there? Like, you're gonna have to weigh your pros and your cons before you decide to transition. And we need to tell people that, okay, you like playing sports, just so you know, this will end your career. You're not going to be able to grow up and be a world famous cyclist if you want to be a girl but you're actually a boy. And you can't just go cycle, you know, with the women. You're going to have to compete with the men. And maybe you were good, maybe you weren't that good, but if you get on estrogen and stuff, it's going to make you weaker. It's going to make you slower. It's going to alter your body in a way that you will never win a competition against other men, but you should compete with the men nonetheless because you are a man. And you can still wear dresses and makeup and all that stuff that you want to do, and call yourself a woman, but no one has an obligation to treat you as such. It is your gender identity. It is not our gender identity. It is a you problem. So after different cyclists, male cyclists, were winning these titles, they decided to think about these things and restructure them. And it's a step in the right direction. Certainly, we shouldn't have never gotten to this point. Female transgender athletes who transitioned after male puberty, again, that line is so crazy, will no longer be able to compete in women's races, World Cycling governing body, the UCI said Friday. Which this begs a question also, though. They just need to ban it entirely. Like, if you're a male, you shouldn't be able to compete in female competitions, because they said if you transition after male puberty. So so this, I assume if you went on puberty blockers as a child, then you'd still be able to compete. So this leads, I think, to a more dangerous sort of arms race, does it not? Because if you're talking to these kids and you're like, well, maybe I want to be a cyclist one day, it's like, okay, well, you won't be able to do that unless you transition now. So we got to stop your puberty from happening. But what if this child would grow up and grow out of their gender dysphoria, but they didn't have that opportunity because you felt so pressured to have them transition early? This was a problem with Bruce / Caitlyn Jenner when they were running in the recall. So Larry Elder was the one who got all the sort of main support, but Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce, also put his name out there. And so when they were talking about transgender athletes competing in sports, which Jenner is interesting because Jenner got that Woman of the Year award and was this really big celebrity that came out as trans and really was a lightning rod, I think, in these conversations, and we'll say social contagion. And now, Jenner's on Fox and they bring, Jenner on as the good trans person to play good trans cop, bad trans cop, or whatever. And I have yet to see kind of apologize for accepting an award for Woman of the Year. And I think Jenner should do that. But Jenner said that trans women shouldn't be competing in women's sports, but also said that they'd have to look at like it had this similar approach though, but it would depending on like when they went through the puberty and stuff. So maybe that opinion has evolved since then, with them now being on like Fox and stuff. But at the time when Jenner was talking about that, I'm like, that makes it kind of really dangerous because that incentivizes people to transition early so they can not go through puberty. So if you're saying that that's the way that they're going to be able to compete in high competition sports, in college, sports and other stuff like that they're going to have to transition early if that's the path they want to go on, I don't think that's good at all. So you might as well, in my opinion, say that if you're a male, you can't compete with the females. You can absolutely go compete with the other males. Nothing is stopping you. And if you don't win, you don't win. You're not entitled to win. If your choices cause you to lose, those are the choices that you made so you could be happy, but you can't always have it all. Like there's obviously an unfair advantage with trans women competing, but obviously it's maybe not quite the same if you don't go through the same kind of puberty. But men, even boys can have a pretty significant advantage over girls and stuff too. So, but I definitely don't want to encourage people to feel like they have to do this as early as possible so they can still compete. Like again, it's separated by the sexes because the sexes are different. So, nothing is stopping you from competing with your sex and identifying still as the other gender. So why the mixing? Why the mixing? The decision came after American writer Austin Killips became Killips became the first openly transgender woman to win an official cycling event this year. From now on, female transgender athletes who have transitioned after male puberty will be prohibited from participating in women's events in the UCI international calendar in all categories in the various disciplines, the International Federation said in a statement. The UCI said the ban starting on Monday was necessary to ensure equal opportunities. So, Killips' road to victory in the fifth stage of the Tour de Gila, one of the marquee U.S. stage races. His victory provoked a negative reaction by some cycling fans and former racers, despite the 27-year-old athlete having adhered to a policy that put in place by the UCI last year requiring transgender athletes to have serum testosterone levels of 2.5 nanomoles per liter or less for at least 24 months before competing in women's events. The UCI said Friday it has taken note of the state of scientific knowledge, which does not confirm that at least 2 years of gender affirming hormone therapy with a target plasma testosterone concentration of 2.5 nanomoles per liter is sufficient to completely eliminate the benefits of testosterone during puberty in men. It also noted the difficulty to draw precise conclusions about the effects of gender conforming hormone therapy. Given the current state of scientific knowledge, it is also impossible to rule out the possibility that biomechanical factors such as the shape of arrangement of the bones in their limbs may constitute a lasting advantage for female transgender athletes, the UCI added. Despite the ban, UCI President David LaParrot said the UCI would like to reaffirm that cycling as a competitive sport, leisure activity, or means of transport is open to everyone. Of course, the means of transport is open to everyone, including transgender people whom we encourage, like everyone else, to take part in our sport. It also noted the difficulty to draw precise conclusions about the effects of gender-conforming hormone therapy. So, you're more than welcome to do it, but that you're not entitled to women's sports, women's spaces. You're just not. I keep saying this, and I'll often say this, and I guess I'll continue saying this. I don't understand why women have to be the ones who lose in this confrontation. You make a decision for your life. That's on you. Not that I don't have sympathy for your dysphoria, but that's not a choice that you made. But it is a choice what you do to your body and how you choose to behave. And if you choose to kind of want to overrun these women, if that's the choice that you make, I can't respect that. I can't respect what you're doing. We got to push back. But I do think there is a lot of pushback. I think this is a step in the right direction. And I think Pride, I was talking to someone earlier this month and I said I think Pride Month was a bust compared to like other years. I think there's definitely things that put a big damper in it. I think though we saw some ludicrous behaviors like the person exposing themselves at the Biden's White House event or whatever, you saw pushback like from Budweiser and other stuff like that. So I think we're heading in a positive direction, a positive trend, I think, with a lot of this stuff. But people just need to say, I'm not playing the game. I'm not playing the game. Last week I showed a video of us reply that a person did talking about why we need to take on cisgender because it's making it seem as though we're saying it's just an antonym, and by us rejecting cisgender we think these people aren't normal or something. And I think if you push this idea, let me show you this interview that Scott Nugent had, because I think this really shows the aggression and the point that I'm making, because they'll tell you particular narratives to push this along, and I don't think this is normal if you need narratives like this. So Scott was in the documentary What is a Woman with Matt Walsh, and Scott is a woman who transitioned. Scott appearance wise looks pretty male, but Scott broke a lot of people's hearts when Scott talked about how probably wouldn't live very long because she's just basically a slave to Big Pharma. She's all kinds of different complications, and she's very concerned about what we're doing to our children and what they're getting into if they can get adults, like when she was a grown adult when she transitioned. So if she can fall prey to that, then our kids don't really stand a chance. We need people who are more responsible to stand up and fight for these kids. And so here's this interview.
Welcome back to the program. We are joined by Scott Nugent. Scott, I just want to jump right in. You have been speaking out against medical transitioning for minors. You are somebody who has experienced that yourself. However, one thing that we haven't been able to figure out is why you are opposed to banning trans women in sports. Why do you not want trans women to compete in sports?
Well, in 1973, we had the law passed that basically, women could compete against other women. And we did that so that, self-esteem of women could be lifted. And we kind of excluded males from that category. Now, trans women are biological males who create an illusion of a woman. They are not women, so they shouldn't be in sports.
So you're saying that trans women don't exist, that they are not, trans women should not have any rights. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that biological women should be able to compete with other biological women in a competition that makes it fair. Trans women are men, that's what I'm saying. Trans women are biological men.
Well, what about a boy who believes that he was born in the wrong body? Do you want him to commit suicide? Would you rather have a son commit suicide or have a daughter that lives? Why are you opposed to this type of medication and medical practice that can help stave off suicide for so many young people?
Wow, that was a big mouthful, wasn't it? Well, let's start here. No child is born in the wrong body, first of all. And better an alive daughter than a dead son is actually wrong. There's only one long-term study that has ever held up the test of time, 7 that said it was beneficial for kids. All of those studies have been either retracted or modified with oops, doesn't help anything, or not enough time, not enough participants. The one long-term study that has lasted the test of time from 1973 to 2003, done in Sweden, followed 326 transgender adults, found that these kids are going to be more suicidal after. So my question is, why are you okay with taking kids that are suicidal?
So you're okay, Scott. You are okay with children committing suicide.
I'm not done. No, what I'm saying is that I'm not okay with these kids committing suicide, but these kids will be more suicidal after they medical transition because you are spreading things that are not true.
All right, Scott, that's all the time we have for now. Thanks for joining us.
What a wild interview. So yeah, it's not normal to need that sort of framing to support your views, to say that these kids, that why do you want kids to off themselves? That is not normal. That's not normal in the least bit. But that's the narrative. That's the narrative. So we don't have to participate. Like if you called me a cis, like a cis, if you're like wondering like what the heck does that even mean? Because I do have an article where I talk about it. It's a slur. But beyond it being a slur, and I don't mean like I'm like gonna cry in a corner because you called me a cis or something like that. Like you can recognize something as offensive without choosing to have your feelings hurt or something like that. I understand the purpose of it. That's why I find it offensive. But if you call me a cisgender woman, it's like it is literally an inaccurate term because you identify. It would mean that I'm a female and I identify as a female. Well, as a woman, so my gender identity matches like my body. What? Right? That's like what it means to be cisgender. I don't identify as a woman though. I don't believe in gender identity. It's a concept. It's a belief. It's it's pretty much a religion, right? So if I don't, if I refuse to be like radicalized by your evangelism, I'm not a believer, guys. It's a concept. It's a concept. So if people are like, I don't agree with the premise, and they say, I don't identify as a man, I am a man, or I don't identify as a woman, I am a woman. How can you call them cis? How can they qualify? How can they qualify if they don't identify? We just are. So if you use that term, it's not just me not accepting a term that you feel is accurate, and it's really an inaccurate term. So we don't have to play the game. We don't have to play the game. But again, it's not normal if people have to feel that you are killing people or you want people to die if you won't just roll over and take whatever that they give you. So for people who are like, oh, just we got to use the pronouns and we got to be nice and we got to, do you understand the aggressive delusion that you are facilitating, that you are feeding into? If we don't just say, no, we need to aspire to a greater truth, the truth, and say, no, I don't think it's kind to be dishonest to people. And I think an interview like that highlights where your kindness goes, where it takes people to that sense of entitlement. And I'm not saying everybody is like that, but this is a large narrative. This isn't a fringe narrative of would you rather have an alive son or a dead daughter. That is something that is often spoken and used and preached. And it's definitely not normal. Anyway, last thing I want to mention before I let you guys go is that Clarence Thomas is continuously attacked in the media because they don't like they never liked him and they never liked his opinions and never want him to be confirmed. But there's been attacks on his integrity as of late. So The Guardian decided to do an article about how some lawyers with Supreme Court business paid Clarence Thomas aid via Venmo. So you might be like, oh, that doesn't sound right. Or maybe you're raising an eyebrow, like a lot of people get paid by Venmo and stuff. And you might be doing like something for a job or something using Venmo, but a lot of time, or I don't really use Venmo, but I use Cash App, for example. Like I sent some money to my sister the other day, like, oh, here's some more of my portion of the rent. And and by the way, if you're using like apps like that and it tells you what it's for, or you can write what it's for, please write what it's for. Because in this story, I think it's pretty evident that that's important information to list, because you never know when someone's going to want to dig into a story about how why someone sent you $20. And they got those new all those IRS agents that they wanted to hire, and they're not going after the super rich. They're going to be looking at your Venmo accounts and your Cash Apps and stuff. Several lawyers who have had business before the Supreme Court, including one who successfully argued to end race-conscious admissions at university, paid money to a top aide to Justice Clarence Thomas, according to the aide's Venmo transactions. The payments appear to have been made in a connection to Thomas's 2019 Christmas party. Ooh. So I don't... If this article is meant to be like nefarious in any kind of way, we already know that it's like for a Christmas party. The payments to Rajan Vashit, who served as Thomas's aide from July 2019 to 2021, seem to underscore the close ties between Thomas, who is embroiled in ethics scandals following a series of revelations about his relationship with a wealthy billionaire donor who is his friend. And certain senior Washington lawyers who argue cases and have other businesses in front of the justice. His Venmo account, which was public prior to requesting comment for this article, is no longer show that he received 7 payments in November and December of 2019 from lawyers who previously served as Thomas's legal clerks. The amount of payments is not disclosed, but the purpose of each payment is listed either as Christmas party, Thomas Christmas party, CT Christmas party, or CT Xmas party, in an apparent reference to the justice's initials. However, it remains unclear what the funds were for. Could it be that it was for a Christmas party? Guys, like the amount of reaching for these folks is just crazy. And so one of the people like came out. I don't think it says this in this article, but they updated it all. No, I don't think it's in this article. I don't think it's in this one. No, it's not. But okay, so one of the people came out and said, yeah, because people are speculating like it's probably for like maybe some alcohol or stuff like that. We could like people reimbursing you for the party. But someone was like, yeah, it was $20 and it was for hamburgers, hot dogs, and chicken tenders. So the Guardian writing this story as if it's some kind of like we just don't know. We don't know what happened at the Christmas. We don't know what it really was for, even though it's this Christmas party. So former clerks who worked for Justice Thomas, who, by the way, his colleagues say is just the nicest guy. People say was Sotomayor, I think, was the one who talked about how he's the one who will send you a Christmas card. He's the one who wants to check up on you if you're in the hospital, will send you flowers, who always has a smile on his face. They say he's the nicest guy, the absolute nicest guy. And so he has a Christmas party and former clerks will come in and apparently they split the tabs. So someone's not covering all the fees or whatever. And they're covering their costs for chicken tenders and hamburgers and hot dogs. And it's a scandal, or they want to present it as a scandal that people don't like. We don't really know. It's so laughable. It's so laughable. Even the story about like his billionaire friend, like, paying for his vacation or travel for his vacation or whatever. They're like, oh, this is a big ethics violation. Yeah, you just recently changed the rules. You as far as like disclosing the stuff, like it was like carved out that they didn't have to. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But to pretend like there is some kind of big violation when it wasn't is crazy. So I was telling my sister about this story and she's just kind of like, what? Like, yeah, exactly. Like it's pretty crazy. She's like, well, if that's all they have on this man, then he must be a pretty, solid guy. And I'm like, yep. Which I don't understand. Thomas is not a spring chicken. I want him to be with us for forever, but they're lifetime appointments. He's been there for a long time, but he's not gonna be around forever. So you guys can't literally just wait him out. Now I know they really despise him. I think more than any other like conservative justice that's there because of his opinions, and also because they were unsuccessful with borking him. They never wanted him on the court. He was always disrespected, and a lot has to do with I think a lot has to do with him being black too. They don't like that he's that representation. But they definitely don't like his opinions. He's super, 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 super conservative. But the question with the rulings aren't just a matter of fact of whether or not you like the rulings or you like the outcome or what's going to happen. The question is, are they making a good legal, sound reasoning opinion? Like, what does the actual law say? And did they get it right or did they get it wrong? I think if you like look at like, and we talked about the affirmative action case, and like what he said versus like what Ketanji Brown Jackson said. One of them sounds like an idiot and one of them does not. And Thomas is not the one who sounds like an idiot, but one of them sounds like a diversity hire full of ideology. And most people agree that you shouldn't have like the base like admissions on your race. That is a popular opinion. Or the 303 creative case. Now he didn't write he didn't write either opinion, but he wrote like a corresponding opinion. But in the case of the 303 creative case, it was Gorsuch who wrote that. People are so mad about that ruling. And like, but you agree with it, like you secretly agree with it. And I've mentioned this several times. Like if you were a gay baker, you would not want the government to force you to make cakes for a conversion therapy camp. You wouldn't want to do that. So thank God for the First Amendment, that the government can't make you do that. Now they're mad because they think that no one should be able to refuse them for any reason whatsoever, but particularly because of their sexuality. So people are mad about the ruling. But you can be mad about something and still acknowledge that it was the right thing, or you can be mad at people for the decisions that they'll make, and still, be like, oh, I'm really glad for our Constitution, because that same right that they have that protects them from coercion also protects me. And so there's been some big accounts that are like, oh, well, we don't like this woman who brought the case before the court, and there wasn't even like a real person requesting it. Like, none of that stuff matters, because they have a pattern of going after Christians in Colorado. That is an established pattern. So the question is an actual good ruling? And there's some people who I've challenged, and they don't want to answer that question because they're in their feels. So you can dislike these people, these conservatives on the court, but the question is their reasoning sound? Is their reasoning sound? You can have a particular policy, and you go. You know what? You can be mad about, like, the student loan thing. Go tell your congressperson to pass a bill. You don't like the rulings they make on the Supreme Court about guns? Petition to change, to amend the Constitution. There's a process. It's not popular. That's why they want activists in the court, so they can bypass the voters. So that your Congress people don't have to be held accountable. And if something fails in the court, they'll just be like, it's this rogue court. It's not a normal court, as Biden says. That's the whole. They know that they're going to fail legally, but they just want to be like, oh, those darn Trump appointments. That's why you got to vote. Replace these people with activists. You want to talk about a threat to our system? We're not a democracy. That's why I didn't say threat to our democracy. That's what they always say. But you want to talk about a threat to our republic, our constitutional republic? That's it. That's a big one. All these people talking about packing now because they didn't get their freaking way. Anyway, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content on the website, different articles, different videos, etc. Please check out different merch that we have at the store as well. That does help to support the show when you guys want different merch, like Quiz Cool Black Tea mug here. We got this Row KC boarded, and we got the Life Wins. We got this funny, uber funny shirt, make crack whack again, Trump 2024, which you guys know I didn't originally make because of the Hunter Biden situation, but it's hilarious and it's relevant, super relevant now. Also, if you like to support, you guys can go to blacktnews.com, check out the donate page, and if you would like to donate there, I very much appreciate it. Again, thank you guys for the super chat. Thank you guys for donating on the website. Very much appreciate you guys. Whether it's a gift of $20 or $50 or more, it really does go a long way, and it really does help. I'm streaming from some of you guys can't see if you're watching on Facebook, you can't see all the comments because some people, a lot of people are watching from YouTube, and that's where most people are actually commenting. But I can see it all because I'm using a particular software, so that there's fees for that. There's fees for running my site and other stuff. And again, I would like to replace some stuff that I had for years that kind of went bad on me, so I could do some more out and about sort of things. And I potentially have a really cool interview that might happen on Wednesday. I don't want to tell you who it might be with. And maybe I should or shouldn't have said anything, but I want to build some expectation in case it happens. If it doesn't happen, I'll tell you guys, but after the fact. But I may, and it'll be a pretty interesting interview if it happens. It's exciting. So we shall see. So please stay tuned. Make sure you guys are dropping in your emails at blacktnews.com so you're aware of different events and special videos or articles or whatever might be up. And also check out my books and other things that I've written. Like I got this one on hand. Like my book The Dark Mermaid, that's one of my fiction books. I have 15 fiction books out and 2 nonfiction books out. One of my nonfiction books is of course God is blatantly against abortion, which I was out. We were in revival this past weekend, and so when we were out to dinner yesterday, I was talking to the pastor about the evangelist about my book a bit, and so I started giving examples of why I needed to write it. And so I mentioned how people will say God killed his kid, why can't I kill mine? And he just like threw his head back. He's like, that is so stupid. I'm like, people say it all the time. And so it breaks down bad, theology kind of stuff like that. But it also talks about our rights, and it talks about theology, not just theology, but philosophy and other things. So it's a very well-rounded book. So if you haven't checked it out, please go ahead and get that on Amazon. And you can also get it on Barnes & Noble, but just search my name. Someone said that they hear that a lot. God killed his kid. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Numbers 5. I hear that a lot. Life starts at first breath, which is I'm like, y'all literally believe that a baby isn't alive until it exits the vajayjay and takes its first gasp of air. Like, so if you killed it, like if you just stabbed it, like before then, like let's say 5 minutes before the breach, it's totally okay because it wasn't alive. I'm like, that doesn't make any sort of sense at all. And a lot of the people who bring up this stuff, they don't really care. They just heard one thing on, I don't know, atheist Reddit or something, and they repeat it. And they repeat it until they believe it deep within themselves, and then I'll debunk it, and then they'll be like, why do you even care about this book? I'm like, why do you care? I didn't bring all this stuff up at first. Like I would say life starts at conception. You can look at a biology or embryology textbook and know that, and therefore I just don't think you should kill that human being. And then they'll say God killed his kid, so why can't I? So with that in mind, I had to keep having those conversations, and it evolved into an article, and evolved into a lot of TikToks, and then it just eventually evolved into a book. So that's the story of basically how it happened, the inspiration behind it. And it was definitely a need. Unfortunately, I think also not just for the trolls that you may have to face, but also like in the body of Christ as well. Unfortunately, there is a need there. So I made it. So go read it. So God bless you guys. I will see you tomorrow.